races suck.
So listen, without further ado, let's bring Chris McCormack on stage. Longtime friend of LATriClub. This is, you know, Macca's, how many times have you spoken with LATriClub? It's been a few.
I was here when you first started.
I know. I think he was one of our first speakers. It's been great. You know, I remember, I think we even ended up in your book somehow.
You did. Well, I think that first year you took me out for drinks here in LA and I ended up moving up this way. So it was, yeah, it's a good part of the world. I forgot how much I missed it. We moved home in 2012 and it's my first trip back through since then, and you get pretty nostalgic. I had a love-hate relationship with LA, but I realised I love it more than I hated it now that I've come back. So it's great to be back.
Awesome. Well, you know, what I want to know is, the inquiring minds want to know here is, you know, you've kind of on the retirement end of things right now, and you're doing a lot, and we kind of want to get a catch up from, you know, what's going on today, from where you're, you know, not competing competitively right now, but you're going to kick everyone's ass on Saturday, right? Who's going to beat Macca on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, no, you're living in Phuket. Tell us about Phuket.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about Thanyapura. What's going on? Give us a quick update. You know, where are you at today?
I think last time I spoke, I just won the Worlds.
Yep.
I think 2012 I won a world title and I came out here and spoke. So, and then my wife sort of said, look, hey, it's time to give back to the family a little bit, this professional triathlon side of things. I was one of the only athletes as a pro that really survived professional triathlon with my marriage intact. So I was pretty happy about that. And so I realised, yeah, it's a very, very selfish endeavour. So I decided to shift priorities. I said to my wife, look, I'd love to continue racing, but I'll put family and family first and triathlon second. So that made, you know, the professional side of things take a back seat to a little degree, and I still wanted to race competitively, so I was just being very, very selective of the events. Obviously, when you have a family, you have to, you know, on the pro side, I couldn't go away on those camps anymore, so I opted not to do the long course and the Ironman racing anymore. I just do the halves and Olympics, so sort of come full circle where I started originally, and we moved home to Sydney, Australia, and we were there for about 5 or 6 months, and I got really, really bored. And because it's such a beautiful place to live, Australia, but it's so, when you're so connected, which you are in the States, you're so disconnected down there. You know, you're 15 hours away from anybody. And you know, I got home, I was talking to my school friends about, you know, school formals and we call them proms here, and I'm like, shit, that's where you guys still are. And I was like, wow, I just missed being connected, and you know, I was still traveling and racing, and by chance I bumped into a gentleman in Phuket. It's amazing the people you meet in triathlon, and I bumped into a guy when we were having a training camp in Thailand. I didn't want to go all the way back to Australia, so I convinced my wife to come up to Thailand and bring the kids, and I met this guy who had a vision to build a sports resort, a sports centre, an international school in Phuket. And we chatted and discussed it, and before we knew it, we did it. And so now I'm living in Phuket. We've got a $140 million development up there, a sports resort, 2 hotels, tennis courts, swimming pools, and it's ludicrous what we've built. It goes a long way in Phuket, that kind of money.
Does LATriClub discount?
And you guys are free. So you get on a plane, come up, and
Did you hear that, guys?
yeah, come across. You heard it here. It's on camera.
It's on camera.
It's on camera. No, pop over.
No, and you have world-class coaches up there.
It's ludicrous. What we built is honestly ludicrous. We have pretty much every single, you know, since opening, we've got every single Olympic aquatics team from Europe train with us, the Dutch, the Australians, the Russians, the Brits. They're booked all the way out till Tokyo. We have all the Formula One drivers. We recently just had Jensen back for about the 4th or 5th time, Jensen Button, who I found out was racing again. We have Carlos Sainz, Marcus Ericsson. Right today we have, what's the world #1? I just got told, bloody Djokovic is staying with us at the moment, and we have Serena and Maria Sharapova always through. It's an amazing centre, it really, really is, because in this part of the world, you know, we've got clean air, which is a big thing. You know, it's anyone who's travelled through Asia, to have clean air and a bit of room to move is amazing. So to build a sports centre with these type of facilities in this part of the world was a big coup, and a lot of people are spending a lot of the big events in this part of the world now, and they need somewhere to train. So tennis, triathlon, swimming, and the F1 guys are using us a lot. We're moving heavily into MMA. We're building a big wrestling and MMA centre because of Muay Thai there in Thailand. We just had Mark Hunt out there. It's incredible. It's a really, really exciting venture, and we're 2 years in now. My kids go to school. We built an international school, an IB school there, so we have 480 kids at the moment. Next year we'll become a United World College, which is anyone who knows international schools, it's a big thing. And yeah, really, really cool. So I've really enjoyed shifting over and trying to train. It's very difficult. Yeah, I got no excuses because I work at a sports resort, so I should be training a lot more than I am, but I have a lot better appreciation now for the age group triathlete, because in years past I used to sit up here and tell age groupers about time management and this is what you need to be a good athlete. But man, until you've got a full-time job, any pro that tells you that doesn't know shit, because man, it's a different world. To have a full-time job, a family, I am the quintessential age grouper now, because it's very, very difficult. So my hat's off to every amateur that races triathlon, and anything I've ever said in the past about time management I take back. I didn't have a clue.
So tell me about Macca X, to give everybody a sense of
about
Macca X right now.
Macca X was a vision of mine I had in 2012, because I was starting to reflect a bit. As you get older as a pro, you start to reflect a bit on your career and the things that enabled me to do what I was able to do. If I didn't meet people like Paul, for instance, when I first came out to the States, I would never have been able to stay here. And so Macca, in the sense that as professionals, we tend to travel around the world and we plug into people's communities, and we have that luxury because we're pros and you guys just take us in. So I met Paul. Next thing, I'm living in his backyard. For every time I came to LA, I'd be, hey Paul, I need somewhere to stay. And I plugged in. I was going swimming with you guys, and you sort of immediately plug into a training environment. And I do that in the UK, I do that in France, I do that in Australia, I do that all over the world. And I thought, well, why can't amateurs access that? Why don't you have that ability? There was just no community out there that enabled, or any club or team that enabled you to connect with people outside your area. I guess Facebook came after it, but it wasn't really, there was no sort of way to do that. So I figured, why don't I put together a platform and build a team and try and get all the experts I'd used in my career, give access of information freely, because I didn't think the coaching model worked so well, in the sense that I didn't think you should pay someone $500 for information that's readily available. And so I started this little vision in my head with a mate of mine, and we launched it, and boom, it exploded. We got members from all over the world, about 1,000 members, and yeah, they meet up all over the world, they race together, and then I just started connecting my sponsors and race directors, and it's a really, really cool community. I got a few guys here tonight who've been with us since the start, and I do camps all around the world, and I don't want to, I just sort of built it as a group, and I didn't want to make millions and millions of dollars out of it. I really wanted to make, in my sense, to make a group of friends and keep a group of friends, because triathlon is a lifestyle that's given me my entire life, and I didn't ever want to unplug. So the Macca X group was that, and it's quite an organic group, and it's run by the group. They say, this sucks, don't do it, or we need more of this, or can you get us Roka wetsuits, or can you get us free entry to this race? And that's sort of what we do, and we hold people accountable, and all the information there is for the member, and you get videos from the best in the world. I'm always accessing these people, so I figured, why not? If I'm sitting with Jensen Button, what's his nutrition plan? You might want to know that, but I figured some people do, and we built some podcasts in, and you can ask questions of the best. And it was just a community that came together, and it's grown really organically, and I love it. Very, very proud of it. Yeah, and the guys are here.
Yeah, LATriClub's locally, Macca X is globally.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Like you can just dial in anywhere
totally,
you're at, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And that was really the mindset, and it really came from I guess out of hanging out with you guys, like plugging in here. If I didn't have open arms when I first came to USA, I would never have been able to come here. If I wasn't living in his backyard, I would never have lived in LA, and I would never have had my career, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So that was really where the mindset came, because I'd speak to friends. I had no idea until I moved home to Australia what a bike cost, man. I honestly, or that you pay so much for an entry. A friend of mine, I was selling my Specialized bikes for for like $4,000 when I got home. I was wondering why they sell so quickly. And I'm like, shit, when I saw the price, I could not believe it. I'm like, you pay that much for a bike, man? You know, and that was sort of when I went, this is ludicrous. You can't, you know, the sport's so expensive. You need to be able to connect with like-minded individuals around the world. And there's so many of us that think and feel. There's groups like you everywhere. And why can't you just connect and hang out? Because we all have some similar goals. And that's sort of where Macca started. And that's where we sort of plugged in all around the world. And it's amazing. I was hanging with guys in Iceland, you know, just recently, team members going, shit, we're in Iceland. Thanks for the pad, man. And it's really cool. And so many of the team travel around the world, hanging with friends and doing races together and keeping each other accountable. And so much of the information, the training information on there's former pros, former coaches, nutritionalists, and you ask questions of the group, and it's just this organic group, and I really, really enjoy being a part of it.
That's awesome. But now there's something else going on. You have a new team. I know that this is a whole new area for you, right? You know, you have a pro team, right?
A pro team.
The Bahrain.
These guys.
And these guys over here. These guys are in the front row. The Endurance 13. Tell me about that. What is that?
Again, triathlon. Just the people. I always talk about how much this sport has changed. When I came to this sport in the late 80s, early 90s, and my father would be like, what? It's swim, bike, what? What are you doing? It was just such a blue-collar, different sport. And I look now, and the people I've met, and it's incredible. And the Bahrain team came from that, a chance meeting 2.5 years ago. I bumped into the future king of Bahrain, a prince, and we had a dinner, and we got chatting. And this guy, like all of us, he's a young gentleman, was in love with triathlon. You know, this guy's a future leader, but he wants to talk about who's going to win Kona, what nutrition I'm eating. I'm like, shit, man, like, you just flew in here on a private 777, mate, like, you got more money than God, man, like, and you want to talk about gels? Let's do it. And that was sort of where it started. And this guy was training for an Ironman South Africa. He'd done Ironman Florida, and just a really, really cruisy guy. And we connected. And he was looking to set up a sports culture in the GCC up in that part of the world, because they have a huge diabetes problem. And he's a young 27-year-old future king, and he wants to really lead by example. And we got talking about really deep stuff. I'm thinking, mate, I just swim, bike and run, but I'm happy to talk this all day. And, you know, he's like, well, you know, how did you get into it? And we don't have these opportunities in the region, and we got all this, you know, how do you do that? And I said, well, Your Highness, you're doing an amazing thing by actually competing. There's a lot of leaders out there who don't do that. So I think you need to show that, or spread that word more in the region, and give, as you're building these cities, anyone who was in Dubai and in the mid-90s and goes to Dubai now, well, what they do in that part of the world very, very quickly is build amazing cities. And I said, when you're doing that, you need to plan. Like, think of bike lanes, think of soccer fields, think of athletics tracks, think of, you know, don't just think of tall buildings that are really cool. And, you know, we got chatting a little bit more, and then he asked for who I thought would be a good leader in the region to help him implement sport. And I thought of a mate I'd worked with all my life, and I said, I got the guy for you. And he went up. MG, you're sitting in the front row.
Right here.
And stand up.
Come on.
No. And he went up, and now he's the minister. What are you? The IOC? What is your role?
Coach, what is it?
I'm the chief advisor to the Bahrain Olympic Committee and the royal family of Bahrain.
Yeah, so there you go. So he went out. He's the chief advisor for all sport in Bahrain.
Stories. Wait to hear these stories.
So he flew up. He's like, I'm going where? I'm like, dude, just go that way near Dubai and hook a left. And he landed there in a place he'd never been. It was very, very different, you know, coming from Australia. And, you know, we've been there just 18 months now. And, you know, we came up with the concept. There's a lot of stuff to do there. And I said to His Highness, why don't you start by putting a big PR machine out there and grab the best athletes in triathlon? That's the first sport you like. But, you know, he had this endurance vision. His honest opinion was that sport as we know it today was not about participation. You don't play football, you watch it when you get to our age. You don't, you know, it was all about, there was nothing in there that encouraged people getting out there and having a go, except for triathlon and endurance sports. Running, triathlon, swimming encourages families to get together go and race and do it as a family. He said, these are the sports that are noble sports. These are the sports we should be doing. These are the sports we should throw money at, not AFL, what do you call it over here? American football. You know, sure, you play that as a, sorry about the Steelers fan up the back there. But basically you stop playing those, so they don't, and you turn a generation of people into viewers, not players, and not people who are watching. And so we talked about this a lot, and we talked about his endurance vision, and he saw endurance sports as noble qualities for people. It takes discipline, hard work, you know, and commitment, and things aren't easy, and a race is really a metaphor for life. You go through highs and lows, but you keep pushing on. And he was like, how do we encapsulate all that? And I said, well, let's take your vision and start with a sport you know, and let's go start with triathlon. So we built the Bahrain Endurance 13. We took the best 13 athletes in the world to become ambassadors for the region and race. And when you've got a guy like this who just writes checks, it's not hard to get the best guys.
He doesn't write checks.
He doesn't write checks. Derek chases the money, and we make it. And you know, we went out and shopped for the athletes, and we told them they had to believe in this vision, because I'd really said to the Prince, because I'd spent a lot of time in Dubai, you know, and during my career, that I believe the UAE had made a lot of mistakes, because they bring Tiger Woods in, they pay him a shitload of money, and then he leaves. You know, I was like, what did Dubai really get out of that, except going out to watch a guy hit a golf ball? I said, why don't you retain the IP in Bahrain, buy these athletes, make them come back here, give back to your sports program, give back to your schools. It's exactly what we did in Thanyapura in Thailand. It needs to start at a school level, build schools, re-educate the kids, and the next generation, your generation's screwed, mate. You need to get the kids, you know, and start at that level and bring that IP back. And he was like, you're 100% right, and he gifted us a team, and we're moving into other teams in the future, and all endurance-related sports. So look for us in the Tour de France, and maybe sailing, and rally car racing, anything that goes faster for longer. It's very much a Bahrain wants to put their stamp on it, endurance racing. So it's been really cool. He's got the best story, so pull him aside.
I know.
You know, I'm filthy that I didn't go up there and keep him in touch.
Well, I mean, we're dying to know, who are the 13? And how many are racing Kona?
We got 10 in Kona. The 13 is Jan Frodeno, the current, or he's Olympic champion, current European champion, current 70.3 champion. We got him before he was all those things. But we have Sebastian Kienle, we have Daniela Riff, we have Caroline Steffen, we have Brent McMahon, we have Javier Gomez, we have Ben Hoffman. What was that? Torenzo, the T. Sam Appleton is a young Aussie, which was really cool for us, because we had to pick 13 athletes. 13 is the Prince's lucky number. And when we came to the last guy, and we're just talking to so many good guys out there, and we really wanted to give an opportunity to a young kid. You know, I wanted to make that phone call. Like, hey man, like, you're it. You're it, mate. You know, and we were throwing back a few names, a few young kids, and young Sam Appo was a kid from Australia. We knew he lived an hour west of me in Sydney, and he was really starting to shine. And we sat there and made that phone call. He couldn't believe it. You know, he's like, you got the right number? You know, I'm like, yeah, mate, you're it. And so Sam Appo, and he's really shone this year. He's won 4 races for us, 4 70.3s. Who else is on the team? Jodie Swallow, James Kunema.
Any females?
3 girls, 10 guys. Next year there'll be 5 girls, 8 guys. Got to do my maths there.
You're an accountant. Come on.
I'm an accountant. Yeah. 5 girls, 8 guys, and yeah, that's everything. Joe Gambles is the other one. It's very Aussie-centric. But I've got Luke Bell, and we've got the Bahrain Endurance 13 team, and then we decided to have a racing team. So the way the model worked, which was what we wanted to speak to His Highness about, was creating pathways. So we wanted the 13 to be responsible for selecting a team of 6. So we sat with them and said, okay, you tell me 6 athletes to pick, and now we're going to give a percentage of their money that they earn from us to fund the team below. And so they selected, so they became mentors to that group of 6, and the same thing would happen with that 6. That 6 would mentor kids within Bahrain, and they had to give a portion of their money that we pay them to the kids in Bahrain. So it was a flow-down model to create pathways to give these kids an opportunity to see where the top is. And so they picked Domenico Pozuelo, Freddie Cronenberg, Paul Ambrose, Josh Amberger, and there's one more. Shit, I should know this, shouldn't we? Actually, you should know this. You're the team manager. You're fired. No, I'm joking. And that's it. It's 4. There's 5.
Hey, Chris McCormack.
No, I'm surprised. Mate. Yeah, Domenico Pasquello. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, that's been a really, really, really cool venture. So the last 2 years, it's amazing how quick 2 years go. So you're racing and suddenly you're caught up in so many things, and you know, you're running a big centre and then you're trying to manage this team travel around the world, making sure they deliver, and then you're back and forwards to the UAE, and then you've got the Macca X group, and it keeps you busy, but very, very enjoyable. Yeah, very enjoyable.
Welcome to our world.
Oh, mate. And that's what I said before. So I listen to pros now. Mate, you don't know shit, man. You got the best life in the world. You swim, bike and run.
You sleep
in when you're tired. When you have a big race, you race on Sunday, you party Sunday night, you sleep in, mate. Like, you don't have to go to work on Monday. There is no thought of that, you know. I was like, and so it was really, yeah, it's been an eye-opener. So I've enjoyed the what do you call it, a transition. Yeah, there you go, the transition.
So let's talk about Kona. I mean, you're going to be there next week.
We leave Monday, yeah.
I'm going to be there. We're going to hang out at Lava Java, have a cup of coffee. And so, you know, your team obviously has some favorites.
They're going to win, mate.
There you have it, right there.
Well, we went 1, 2, 3 at 70.3 worlds. A clean sweep of the men's podium at 70.3 worlds, and Daniela won the women's race. She's now eligible for the, I don't know if you guys know about the Triple Crown, which is another event the Prince put on. The Prince decided that he would select 3 races in the world, and anyone who could win those 3 races would get $1 million. So we're like, oh shit. I'm like, let's do 1 in Phuket, we'll do 1 tomorrow. So yeah, he selected 3 races, and Daniela Riff is, the last race will be in Bahrain at the end of the year, and she's going to win $1 million, guaranteed. So she's buying drinks. So if you bump into her in Kona, she's going to have probably the most lucrative career in the history of our sport. So it's amazing. She'll be up over $2 million this year if she wins the million, which is huge. Huge.
Well, I feel like I've asked too many questions. I want to open it up to you guys, and let's listen. You guys, you know, this is Macca. He's in LA. He's only in town for a couple more days. What do you want to know right now? Who has a question for Macca? Come on, somebody. Right there, Jamie Silver in the back.
We saw you race long distance for most of your career, and then we saw you sort of do like a paradigm shift in your career, and you tried to race ITU.
Yes.
And we all had a great opportunity to watch you down in San Diego. And we know how fast those guys go. We know how different the sport is at the long distance. What was your mindset, and what were your feelings from your experience racing at that short distance?
Absolutely loved it. I absolutely, those guys, I started there originally in the ITU, and I came to America and nobody knew ITU when I came here, and I opted to go to Ironman. And then sort of after 2010, you know, my wife's like, we're retiring now? So I'm like, oh. And I came home to Australia and I spoke with my family. The decision to move to ITU was the one thing I hadn't done was go to the Olympics. And I really, really thought I'd close the door on that because I opted for the Ironman and traded that in to some degree. And then I spoke, my federation had rung me and to congratulate me on Worlds, and I opened the lines of discussion. I said, how hard is it to get in these Olympics? Is it too late? They're like, you got a small shot, but it's not a closed door. And so I spoke to my wife and my kids. They were at an age where they could, and I said, let's put it in their hands. And they said, yeah, Dad, do it. You know, I'm like, you know what? Everyone laughed. Why would you walk away from Ironman when you're world champion? You're a dinosaur. These kids are going to kick the hell out of you. And it really, I'll be honest, was, I thought I just had to be the best Australian to go. I no way did I ever think I'd beat Alistair Brownlee, but I thought it'd be pretty cool to go to London with my family, and that's it. 2012, I'm done. You know, retiring the Olympic Games, and have ticked every box. And when I opted, a lot of people laughed, but I went ahead and did it. And I honestly had a great time, and I think it connected me with a group of athletes that I would never have met had I not gone back. You know, your Javier's and your Gwens and your Lisa Nordens. I was training in Davos with, you know, Sarah, who's now one of the best in 4 for the Olympics. Actually, pre-London, I trained with the silver medalist, the bronze medalist, and the 4th place in the women's. It was just fantastic. And those, without question, the next generation, you're seeing it with Gomez, you're seeing it now with Frodeno, are the greatest multi-sport athletes that have ever lived. Javier Gomez is mind-blowing. Like, he is absolutely ludicrously fast. Anyone who tells you anything to the contrary doesn't know shit. Right? Because what they're doing is mind-blowing, men's and women's. And you're watching Gwen Jorgensen right now. Her dominance is ludicrous and just so polished athletes. And that ITU racing, you know, I tell people, I ran in San Diego 30-30, which for me, I hadn't run 30 minutes for 10K for years. I lost by 90 seconds, mate. I got off the bike with them. They ran 90 seconds into me. I'm like, shit. You know, they're just so fast. In Hamburg, I ran my quickest 30-13. I lost by 55 seconds. It's just another level. You saw in Chicago with Maria Mola running sub 29, 28:47 or something, which is just like what they're doing. And these guys swim, man, really quick. It's just incredible. And it's just, you know, the sport is evolving, and I just love to sit back now as a pure fan and appreciate what they're doing, because it's the greatest I've ever seen, and I don't regret it for one iota. I absolutely loved it, being back on the Australian circuit with young guys and girls with just huge ambitions to be professional athletes. It's just good to be around it. I loved it. Yeah.
Two questions, one quick. If you wanted to read about your training center in Thailand, what would you search for?
Oh, www.Thanyapura, Thanya, P-U-R-A. Thanyapura means land of abundance in Thai, but Thanyapura.com.
Second question, I'm surprised the Prince didn't buy Ironman. What do you think, Dali and Wanda?
We talked about it, but yeah, now the Wanda Group is the first time Ironman's left US shores, and just knowing how much the sport is exploding in this part of the world. I'd never really spent a lot of time in this part of the world. I passed through and had a holiday, but living now in Asia and seeing the fitness boom, I was talking out there to a few people, you've never seen anything like it. Just in the 2 years in Thailand, I've seen, it's a 5,000% increase. And it's a very, very different group of people coming here, very wealthy, the new middle class and rich people are coming to triathlon and coming to running and coming to fitness, and you know, that's where they're going to see all the growth for Ironman. I think that's why they bought it. We're seeing, you know, the Thailand Triathlon series, to win the series, you win $50,000 US. It's a shit pissy little series. Like, I'm thinking, far out, I need to get training, you know, like, and I'm trying to convince guys, I'm like, guys, I know what we were doing was coming to the States or going to Europe. Trust me, man, get on a plane, come to Asia and race here. There is a lot of money. The Sunrise Events does huge Ironman events out of the Philippines now. The market's exploding down there, and now the sport has shifted to China. I'm sure we're going to see a 70.3 World Championship in polluted air of China. And, and so take up smoking, get your lungs ready, and you'll be fine. But it's incredible. Yeah, incredible what's happening. But yeah, they must see upside. What did they pay, $1 billion almost?
Right, so we've got some people here who've done and qualified for the Kona Ironman World Championship.
Who's going?
Raise your hand if you qualified and you're going.
Hey! Oh!
1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Oh, it's been windy.
My question is, Macca, what advice would you give to the people who've done it, who are going to do it next week?
Do you have to go? No. My advice is to not get, you know, it's a beautiful day, and it's a big preparation, and the energy of the place is like nowhere you've ever been, especially when you're racing. It's one thing to go as a spectator, but when you're racing, you're in your anxious, you know, zone, and you're a bit apprehensive about many things. Have I done enough? You know, you got everyone patting you on the back. You'll be good. You'll be right, and you start to retreat a little bit. And that makes you do things that you probably wouldn't do. You get caught up in the energy. You go swimming at the pier every morning. You get stuck at Lava Java for 4 hours. You get, you know, you chat to your mates in the sun, and you know. So my advice is stay out of that sun. Don't get caught up in the energy. You can party your ass off after the race, but just in the days before, so many people running along a Leahy Drive. They're the fittest people in the world, man. Like, they're running along a Leahy Drive that fast. You know, shirts off, looking $1 million. But you see them on race day and they're cooked, so don't cook yourself there. But enjoy it. You know, I've got a lot of friends who I've watched in the last couple of years do it for their first time, and it's sad when I hear them after the race say, I wish I enjoyed it a bit more, you know, the anxiety of it. So really, just congratulations for making it. Enjoy. You're joining a group of really, really hardcore lucky people who have raced on that island and earned their spot there, and don't forget that. Really don't forget it. I don't know what to talk to you about the course about the course, because if it's windy, mate, pack some tissues because you're going to cry, man. It'll be the worst day of your life. Sorry about that. It's going to be hot and humid. Be dialed in. Expect the unexpected, and this race, like no other, is open to the elements, and the elements are what will ultimately shape your day. Do not quit on yourself. I've done it 3 times there. You will take a long time to get over it. Do not quit on yourself, and you're going to have a shit, heavy, horrible day. But I swear to you, there is no road on this earth as a triathlete as good as the Leahy Drive when you come down that finish line. Nothing in your life will compare to it. Nothing, and it's worth it. No matter how much you're struggling out there, keep moving forward. Yeah, keep moving forward.
And don't forget to wear your Zog goggles.
Yeah.
I just had to do the plug.
And wear the Zogs in the swim because there's so many fish, you need clarity of vision.
Listen, and MG says, listen, blue lenses. Blue, because makes you
it's a euphoric approach to your mind.
That's right. There's a mental aspect to that. So just some blue lenses now.
Yeah.
Take note of that. All right, we have some more questions here.
I was just people ask about WTC and about Kona. Can you talk about Challenge?
Yeah, the Challenge group,
yeah.
I'm the global ambassador for Challenge. I did a deal with them a few years ago to be their ambassador for 10 years. And I'd raced the Challenge event in Roth for a big part of my career. It used to be the Ironman. You know, back in the day when I first started Ironman, there was 10 Ironmans in the world. And the biggest one in the world outside of Kona was Roth. And then Ironman decided to grow and put an event in Frankfurt. And Roth, was the biggest race in Europe. Said, you know what, we're going to keep this race. And they formed the Challenge brand. And so I went back and supported that race. Not because I was anti-Ironman by any means, it was because I wanted to compare myself to the Mark Allens and the Dave Scotts and the Greg Walshes and the guys who had raced on this course. There was no history in Frankfurt, so I didn't really care about Frankfurt. I wanted to race in Roth because everyone had raced in Roth. And that race I did not ever regret doing in my career. Those 4 wins there were the best wins of my career. The crowds, the course, the history of the event was spectacular. I was always drawn to history because I grew up reading the magazines. And then the Challenge brand started to grow around the world. They were very European-centric. Then they moved down to Australia and into Wanaka in New Zealand. And then they wanted to take a step over to the US. And they wanted to grow very, very quickly. And I was like, wow, I was just lucky to be ending my long course career, and sat down with Felix, the founder of the Challenge family, and talked about how I could plug in and help be an ambassador and talk about these races, and you need a competitor. I think I don't ever regret doing Ironman. I think I still race Ironman races, but I think Challenge is just a different feel of a event. They really stayed true to the old way of doing triathlon. A lot of the Ironman races now, you get the same thing. It's like McDonald's to some degree. You know what you're getting. You get, which are cool. I eat McDonald's all the time when I'm traveling, But I like to go to a race in Wanaka and get a feel for New Zealand, understand, and a local race director put on this event and get that real cultural feel of a race. And Challenge, that's the main core value of Challenge, is not neglecting the fact that we as triathletes are lifestyle people. We travel and we want to get a feel of where we're going and not just streamline everything. And some races are a disaster, but whenever you race in Brazil, it's a disaster. I had to say that because you're from Brazil. but that's part and parcel of that style of event. And some races are absolutely epic. But yeah, Challenge is really cool. Really cool.
I think Deb has a question over here.
So for those of us who may never do an Ironman, or who do...
Leave the room now. No, I'm joking. Leave the room.
Who do long course or sprints or anything like that, what are some of your own insights and training tips that you may want to give some of us middle backpackers or whatever, just doing this and we love doing it? Some of your own thoughts from when you were training.
Insider knowledge.
Inside trading.
Inside trading. Can't leave this room, all right? I think the key to improving in this sport, because I think is number one, get some experts around you. Do get a coach or someone that can help shape what you're doing. And the biggest thing is consistency. Is consistent work and not trying to rush things. Everyone is in such a rush to get to Ironman now. Like, it's ridiculous how I did a sprint race, I'm doing an Ironman next year. You're like, shit, man. You know, like it's... Or
there's some of us that just do their first...
Yeah, I'm doing an Ironman. You know, enjoy it a bit. Like, and you know, really do your apprenticeship and, you know, do some sprint events, some Olympic distance races, a half, and Ironman, and build that consistency in training, get a better understanding of your body and how it reacts. And by going up in distance, you really learn that. And, you know, but for training tips, if I can tell you anything, be consistent and put smart people around you. And you know, a lot of people have been in this sport, especially in this part of the world in LA, for a long time now. They've seen everything that comes and goes, so find a coach or a group of people that can give you the information you need and keep you motivated, and more than anything, keep you accountable. You know, it's accountability that's key. When, you know, everyone says, I just wasn't motivated. That's a cop-out. I hate that word, mate. 90% of my career I wasn't motivated, but you just got to do it, mate. Because you just get out of being, shit, I'm not really motivated. If I blame not being motivated for the reason I didn't train, I would never have trained. You know, there's sometimes periods in your life where it just flows and everything's easy, and there's periods where it's damn hard, and it's what happens in those periods that ultimately shape your season, your race, and they're the things you need to get your head around. So be consistent. Write that on your wall. Just, you don't need, if you got to do an hour run and you just, you know, I say the alarm goes off, you know, you couldn't be bothered. It's better to do a half-hour run than it is to not do any run. You know, so put the shoes on, and I guarantee you, if you put the shoes on and run out the door, I've never met anyone who has regretted going for a training session. You know, they regret not going, and they carry that guilt for the rest of the day, and the guilt's what ultimately plays on you. So, yeah, be consistent and do the work.
Adrian?
You went to Kona and you kind of like crashed, you know, like a few...
Thanks for reminding me. There's always one. Get him out. Throw him out.
No, just like, how do you figure it out? And, you know, like mentally, physically, you know, like nutritionally. So...
Yeah, for me, I went in... my first race in Kona was 02. I'd won my first Ironman on debut. I hadn't lost a race in a few years, so I figured I'd win this Kona thing, no problems. I'd watched the videos all my life. It seemed like an easy thing to do. You know, I'd won Wildflower and I'd won an Ironman, and the next thing is win Kona, then I'll go to the Olympics. You know, you plan your career out in your head. And I swam really well. I went off the front on the bike. I had a 13-minute lead into the marathon. I ran out, I high-fived my father, told him, buy a case of beer and we'll bank this check in a couple of hours and I'll be back. And I got wounded out there, man. And that's what I say to the first timers in Kona. It's hot, man. And it's hot. And I remember running along Alihi Drive and trying to work out in my head. You try and rationalise why things are going wrong. We all do it. And, you know, you think, shit, this is getting hard. Damn, it's hot. I need water. And I started losing time very rapidly to Peter Reid and Tim de Boom. And they caught me on Palani Hill at 10 miles into the run. And I ran over the top of Palani and I started rationalising, going, you know what, I've had a big year. I've had a good year. You know, and, mate, you know, I haven't done that nutrition thing, really. And you know what, stuff it, I'll come back next year. Right? And I hadn't really bought into this Ironman thing. I just thought, for me, it was swim, bike, run. And I pulled out at 13 miles in third place. And I got crucified by the amateur. Absolutely, because I really didn't realise how, because I'd come from ITU, short course racing. Well, let's just do an Ironman. And the amateur's like, you need to finish this. You're a soft cock. You got nothing. And I was like, shit, these guys are really intense, man. And so I thought, okay, I've got to come back and do it again. And I really had in my head, thought I had the reason. A big season. Next year I won't race as much. That's what it is. And you start to listen to all the people around you that, you know, all the potential reasons. So I checked out and I came back the next year and said, okay, I won't race as much. I'll do an Ironman early in the year. Actually, I'll go and do another Ironman. It was my first time I'd do another Ironman in Europe. I went and did Roth for the first time just to get a little bit more experience at running this marathon thing. And I won the Ironman in Australia again for the second time, beat the world champion. And I went to Roth and had a sprint finish with Lothar Leder, who had finished third the year before in Kona and had won everything. I thought, mate, we ran a 2:40 marathon. I'm like, Kona's a no-brainer, mate. I'm going to win this thing. And then I decided to get married. And not that I regret that, but that sounded bad. I got married around mid-August and I had my honeymoon, and my wife kept saying to me, shouldn't you be training for Kona? I'm like, Dale, I've seen my season. I've killed it, man. It's in the bag. I run 240 now. It's all over. And I started preparing for the race, and I felt 100% sure thing. Because at that point in my life, in my head, it's swim, bike, run. Biggest punch wins. I hadn't quite grasped that Ironman racing is not about who has the biggest punch, who has the most commitment, who's prepared to suffer and really, really suffer, who's prepared to dig really, really, really deep into ugly, ugly places to push. And why the hell do you want to do that? There has to be a reason that you want to do that. If there's no substance to that reason, you'll stop, you'll walk, and you'll check out. And that year, I was running towards the Energy Lab, and I went stuff and I started walking. And it was the windiest year ever. You'd pray for winds not like that. In 2004, Norman Stadler won for his first time, the fastest bike speed I think he rode that year was 4:46. I rode the second fastest bike speed at 4:58. It was the most horrific day ever. I remember being at the airport, which is 20 kilometres from home, looking down at my speedo. I was doing 18 kilometres an hour, thinking, shit, it's usually 20 minutes to home from there, like with the tailwind. I'm thinking, I've got an hour to go. I'm absolutely bonked. It was a horrific day, and I walked again to the finish line. And at that point, I finished that year 9:36. I went, mate, this race, and I wanted to go back to ITU. I'm thinking, oh, mate, I can't do this Ironman thing. I'm too big, too heavy. I don't know what I need to do. And these guys talked me into going back. You got to go back, man. You got to do it. And so I went back again. I had a stellar year again. Won Ironman Australia. This time I went and ran one Roth, broke 8 hours, 240 marathon, one Wildflower, one Alcatraz. Flawless season. Kona 2005. It was 2004. I went back and I was running into the Energy Lab in 5th spot, and I saw Scott. My agent was there with my bike sponsor at the time, Preston. I'd been in agony, like going backwards. I was in 5th spot, in agony. I remember seeing their car, and I remember justifying it in my head. You know what? You're a short course guy, mate. You can't do this shit. No matter how much you want to believe it, man. This race, again, justify in your head. You make excuses. You give yourself a reason to check out. And anyone who's racing Kona, do not go down the dark side of the force. It's the wrong way to go. And I saw the car and I opened the door. The car and I jumped in. And they're like, what the fuck, what are you doing? You're doing well. I'm like, dude, I'm out, man. And I didn't realise at the time, but Mark Allen, who was my idol, was driving the car with them. And, you know, so I've jumped into the car, I've closed the door, the officials come up, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm out, dude. I quit, I retire, I'm done. You know, so I'm 3 Konas, 2 DNFs now and a 9:36, convinced I'm done. And I sat in the car, we watched the guys run out of the Energy Lab, and I said to Mark, Preston was driving, let's drive home, man, get me back to this train. I just want to get off this friggin' island, man. I hate this joint, never coming back. And Mark was training Peter Reid at the time. He said, no, mate, you're going to sit and you're going to watch this race. I'm here for Peter, I'm not here for you. I'm not a taxi. Stay in the car. I'm like, shit. Anyway, anyone who remembers that year, if you watch it, there was a guy, Chris Selensky, I can't remember his surname, and he crashed on a bike like 20 miles out from transition. It was ridiculously windy year. And mate, we're coming up from out of the Energy Lab, we're driving back watching Peter, and this guy's got a bike on his shoulder, covered in blood, man, like blood from head to toe. It looked like he'd just been hit by a car. And I'm sitting in the back seat, I'm on the cover of all the magazines, going into the Kona, the favourite, the man. And we pulled up alongside him to see if he wanted a lift, you know, like, you want to lift back to transition, we're heading that way. And that's not me. He wound the window down and they said, you want a lift? He's like, no, mate, I get a lift, this is Kona, you finish no matter what. Now, he hasn't seen me in the back at this point. He's like, they're like, you sure? He's like, no, mate, I crashed 20 miles out, man. I got to ride my bike, walk my bike all the way to transition. Then he had to run the bloody marathon. And he's glanced in the back and he's seen me. He's like, Macca. And the disgust on his face, right? The sheer disgust, I was like, oh, I wanted just to die, right? And he was what happened? I'm like, window up. And I'm like, drive. And I unretired, and that was it. I sat in my house. I'm like, dude, I've got to work this out, man. And I begged Mark Allen just to give me an hour of his time because he'd had 7 failures there. I said, what, you know, and he to his credit, he did. He gave me an hour of his time. And he made me do some weird stuff. He's a very different guy. But and we came back, and the next year I finished 5th, and then the following year I was 2nd and started to get on the roll and worked out. Mark's advice to me was I wanted to win everything. He said, to win Kona, you need to let go, mate. You can't be a king in Australia in April and Phuket in January and be expecting to win a World Championships in October. Can't be done. You got to let something go, give up on something. And I wanted to win everything at the time. And that was hard, but I took it on. He said, get fat in July, which I loved doing, and prepare for an Ironman with a bit of rest. So I did Ironman Australia, took a big period of time off where I'd usually come over here and win the wildflowers and stuff. I stopped doing that, the Alcatrazes, took some downtime and then would prep in the middle of the season. And I went back 5th. I ran the quickest marathon, started to get some confidence. Then the 2006 year with Stadler, I got 2nd. We had a punch up on the island. The next year I won in 07. But it was a learning curve. And honestly, if I didn't have a group of people around me that believed in me, it would have been easy to buy into the crap and believe that it was just too hard to do. But Ironman's not easy, you know. It really, really isn't easy. And I look back now and I truly appreciate the fact that I didn't win it in 02. And I should have won it in 02. I really should have. But I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't, because I would never have appreciated how monumental the race is, how special that race was in my life, how I kept going back to the drawing board, never quit on myself no matter what, and just persevered with an event that doesn't suit me, but boo-hoo. Doesn't suit a lot of people. You can cry about it, or you just get on with business and try and make it suit you and work out the problems that you need to deal with, and ultimately won it. And you know, it was a childhood dream. From the age of 12, I wanted to win that race. My brothers laughed, and in 07 when I did it, I remember going, shit, I'm going to do it. You know, 20 years on from when I first watched that race on TV, and running down a Leahy Drive, it was just ridiculous. It was unbelievable day. And I still remember ringing my older brother going, hey, I won. Remember you said I'd never win the race? He's like, what? I said, remember sitting at home when we were like 12 and you said, yes, you'll never win it? He's like, dude, the things that go through your head, you're fucking screwed up, man. But it's funny, the little things, because that stuck with me for so many years. That was, you know, the little things I talk about, reasons you're going to dig deep in Kona, the reasons you're going to have to ask yourself when you're out in those lava fields and it's stinking hot and you are buckled, absolutely sideways buckled, and you're asking yourself why the hell you're here. You need to be able to answer that with substance. And for me, it was my brothers, my friends, the journey, the people who believed in me, and that was enough to keep pushing.
The guy that said, don't give up.
Don't give up. Yeah, Chris Zelensky. Do not give up. The disgust in his face. These are the things that bubble to your head, where we need that thing that runs through your head that makes you push, and everyone has a reason. And you've got to find it and harness it, because in Kona, you need that. You need something, because the Energy Lab sounds, you know, I said to Bob Babbitt once, when he asked me what I found the hardest in Kona, and I said, dude, when I ran in the Energy Lab, the music didn't start. Because on the TV, you know, they cut an 8-hour race into 2 hours, and the beautiful music, and it's all inspiring. You're like, go do that, man, it's going to be cool. I can't wait to do that. In the real life, it's 8 hours of hell. And there's no music kicking in the Energy Lab. It's really quiet. More than 8 hours for a lot of people, yeah. Without, yeah. You're right. It's true. Yeah. And yeah, the Energy Lab is none. There's no energy down there, I'm telling you. It's yeah, so that was what it didn't kick in. The music, the nice voice with that guy going, he's coming, you know, and you're getting all inspired. That's not there. It's just alone. Quiet, hot, alone with your thoughts, that voice is in your head, and it's how you deal with that. And my advice to the guys racing, I'm excited that you're racing, because I envy people who are doing it for the first time, or is have answers to those questions, and yeah, don't quit on yourself. Don't quit on yourself.
we're going to go to the raffle. I just want to thank
that was easy.
Chris McCormack, two-time Ironman World Champion, for showing up today.
Attention.